Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you're here today because we're diving into something that is rarely discussed but so important: what happens when an empath gets angry and what they do to a narcissist. Now, we all know that empaths are often seen as the calm, compassionate ones, always there to absorb the emotions of those around them. They're like emotional sponges, constantly taking in the vibes of others and radiating empathy. But even the most peaceful souls have their breaking points. And when an empath gets angry, things can get intense, especially if the person they're dealing with is a narcissist. Let's get into it. We often think of empaths as these gentle, forgiving creatures who avoid conflict at all costs. But what people don't realize is that their deep sense of empathy doesn't mean they're pushovers. In fact, empaths possess an extraordinary inner strength, and when provoked, particularly by a narcissist, they can transform in ways that might surprise you. An empath's anger isn't like the rage of someone who easily lashes out. It's much more profound, and when directed at a narcissist, it can have an unexpectedly powerful impact. Narcissists, on the other hand, are masters of manipulation. They thrive on control, using charm, deceit, and emotional games to maintain their sense of superiority. Their relationship with empaths is often toxic from the start, with the narcissist feeding off the empath's kindness and vulnerability. But what happens when the tables are turned and the empath finally snaps? When an empath reaches the breaking point, their anger is typically a slow burn. It's not an explosive, in-your-face kind of anger. Instead, it's a deeply felt simmering realization that they have been taken advantage of, manipulated, and drained. For an empath, anger often stems from deep hurt and betrayal. They realize that their genuine care has been used against them, that their sensitivity has been a tool for the narcissist's ego, and that, despite all the love and understanding they've offered, the narcissist has given nothing in return but pain. At first, an empath might internalize this anger. They might try to rationalize the narcissist's behavior, thinking, maybe they didn't mean to hurt me. Maybe if I just explain how I feel, things will change. But here is the thing about narcissists: they're not interested in understanding anyone else's feelings. They're experts at gaslighting, turning the tables, and making the empath feel like they're the one at fault. And this is where the empath's anger can shift into something truly transformative. Once an empath sees through the narcissist's facade, something clicks. They stop giving the narcissist the benefit of the doubt, and this is where the dynamic starts to change. The empath stops absorbing the narcissist's toxic energy and instead begins to detach emotionally. This is often the most painful part for the narcissist, because they rely so heavily on the empath as emotional availability to feed their own ego. An empath's anger, when fully realized, is not about revenge or malice. It's about reclaiming their power. And here's where it gets interesting. Narcissists aren't used to being called out. They're used to people placating them, excusing their behavior, or, in the case of the empath, trying to fix them. But when an empath gets angry, they don't engage in shouting matches or throw insults. They take a step back, detach, and, most importantly, they stop caring about the narcissist's approval or validation. For a narcissist, this is devastating. Their whole existence is built on controlling others, on being the center of attention. And suddenly, the empath, who was once a source of emotional supply, is no longer playing the game. The narcissist might try to provoke the empath further, pushing buttons, trying to get a reaction. But the empath, now awakened to the narcissist's tactics, doesn't take the bait. Instead, they respond with indifference, which is one of the most powerful responses when dealing with a narcissist. You see, narcissists crave attention, whether it's positive or negative. They don't care if you're praising them or arguing with them, as long as you're focused on them. But when an empath withdraws emotionally, it's like cutting off the narcissist's oxygen supply. The more the narcissist tries to reel the empath back in, the more frustrated they become when their efforts are met with calm detachment. This emotional detachment is the empath's greatest weapon. It's not about stooping to the narcissist's level or seeking revenge. It's about recognizing that they don't have to fix the narcissist, and they certainly don't need to continue being a source of supply for someone who only drains them. The empath's anger, once fully processed, turns into a kind of quiet, unshakable resolve. They know their worth, and they no longer allow the narcissist to dictate their emotions or sense of self. In many cases, this drives the narcissist into a state of panic. They'll try to hoover the empath back, using charm, false apologies, or even trying to play the victim. But the empath having learned from their anger, can see right through these tactics. They've learned that narcissists rarely change, and they've also learned that they don't need the narcissist's approval to feel whole. The beauty of an empath's anger is that it ultimately leads them to a place of self-love and boundaries. While they may have started out feeling used and manipulated, their anger serves as a catalyst for growth. They realize that their empathy is a gift, but it is not something to be given away freely to those who only seek to exploit it. They learn the power of saying no, the power of walking away, and most importantly, the power of reclaiming their own narrative. For the narcissist, this is both confusing and infuriating. They're not used to losing control, especially over someone as empathetic and giving as the empath. But the empath's anger is not something the narcissist can easily manipulate. It's a deep, internal shift that the narcissist simply can't understand, because it's rooted in genuine self-awareness and emotional intelligence, two things the narcissist lacks. And so, when an empath gets angry, it doesn't look like the explosive, reactive anger we're used to seeing. It looks like quiet strength. It looks like emotional detachment. It looks like boundaries being drawn and self-worth being prioritized. And for the narcissist, this is a nightmare. They thrive on chaos and emotional turmoil, but the empath, once they've processed their anger, brings only calm and clarity to the situation. And that's something the narcissist simply can't handle. Over time, the narcissist will likely move on, seeking new sources of supply. They can't stand being around someone who no longer plays into their games, and they'll eventually discard the empath in search of easier prey. But the empath, now wiser and stronger, knows this is not a loss. In fact, it's a victory. They've reclaimed their power, their peace, and their emotional autonomy. So, to all the empaths out there who've been dealing with narcissists, know that your anger is valid. It's a sign that you've been mistreated, but it's also a signal that you're ready to heal and move forward. Don't be afraid of your anger. Let it guide you to a place of strength, boundaries, and self-love. And remember, the best way to deal with a narcissist is not through confrontation, but through emotional detachment and inner peace. Thank you all for watching today. I hope this discussion gave you some valuable insights into the dynamic between empaths and narcissists. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Take care, and until next time, keep your energy protected and your empathy strong. See you soon.